Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. As you know, we are studying very important chapter of NCERT, that is how do organisms reproduce. Okay, so in our previous lecture, we have already discussed about the male reproductive system. In this lecture, we are going to talk about female reproductive system. Generally, the female reproductive system is more complex than the male reproductive system. The reason is that it receives male penis for the coagulation. Okay, and generally it gives birth to the child. It helps in the fertilization. Okay, so we can say that the female reproductive system is more complex than the male reproductive system. Okay, so here we go with the female reproductive system. Yes, here we can see the structure of female reproductive system. So let me define you that generally female reproductive system has four main parts. What are they? Ovary, then fallopian tube, uterus and vagina. These are the very important organs of the female reproductive system. Okay, now if I talk about, first of all I talk about the ovary, then we can see that two ovaries, means one pair of ovaries which are generally almond shaped. Okay, they are present in the female abdominal cavity. They are present generally in the abdominal cavity. Okay, and here we can see that these ovaries, as I told you that these are two in number, so in each female two ovaries are present in the abdominal cavity. Okay, so here we can see it is almond shape. Okay, and it is attached to the uterus with the ligaments. Okay, so let me tell you about the function of ovary. Generally this ovary produces ova, means eggs, as well as it releases female sex hormone. These are estrogen and progesterone. Fine. Now let me tell you about the second organ, that is fallopian tube. Here we can see this is fallopian tube and also known as oviduct. Generally it is a tubular shaped. Okay, it has a tubular shape and it is muscular. Fine. It is almost 20 centimeter long. What is the function of this fallopian tube? Actually, as we can see that the end of this fallopian tube is generally open here in the ovary. Okay, so whenever this ovary releases ova or egg, then it goes into the fallopian tube, and from the fallopian tube it goes into the uterus. Okay, as well as this fallopian tube is the site for fertilization of the egg. Fine. So here the fertilization of egg also takes place in the fallopian tube. Now let me tell you about the other part, that is uterus. Here we can see uterus. Uterus is what? Uterus is a muscular structure. Generally it is found just behind the bladder. Okay, it is found just behind the urinary bladder. Fine. What is the function of this uterus? As the fertilization take place here in the fallopian tube, okay, then this fertilization, then embryo, means that zygote, comes here in the uterus and get embedded here and grows here till the birth of the baby. Fine. So this is all about the uterus. Okay, now let me tell you the other part, that is vagina. Here this is vagina. Vagina is also muscular part. Okay, and generally it is also known as birth canal. Why? Because it allows the passage for the birth of the child. Fine. So this is all about the female reproductive system. Now let me tell you, female reproductive system, female reproductive system is more complex than the male reproductive system. Male reproductive system. Okay. Female reproductive system has four main parts. System has following parts or organ. Fine. What are they? Number one, ovary. Okay, then fallopian tube. Uterus and vagina. Okay, so these are the four main parts of the female reproductive system. First of all, we will talk about ovaries. Number one is ovaries. What are ovaries? Ovaries are generally almond shaped and two ovaries are present in the each female. Okay, two almond shaped muscular ovaries are present in females. Which females? Human females. Okay, I'm talking about human females. Okay, then these ovaries are attached to uterus by ligaments. Okay, here we can see ligaments are here. So these ligaments attach the ovaries to the what? To the uterus. Fine. Here in the ovaries, each ovary is consist of ovarian follicles. Each ovary consists of ovarian follicle. Okay, and these follicles means each follicle has one ovum, okay, in it. Each ovarian follicle has ovum, or it produces ovum, we can say. Thus we can say the function of the ovary is what? It produces ova as well as it secretes female sex hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. If we talk about the function of ovaries, okay, so what are the functions of ovaries? Ovary produces, here I have mentioned ovary means each ovary produces ovum. Ovary produces ova means eggs, okay, for fertilization, as well as ovary secretes female sex hormone that are estrogen and progesterone. Okay, so these are the functions of ovary. What are they? They produces ova means eggs, as well as they secrete female sex hormones. These are known as estrogen and progesterone. Fine. So this is all about the ovary. Next we will talk about fallopian tube. Next is fallopian tube. Fallopian tube, it is also known as oviduct. Okay, also known as oviduct. So generally here we can see that these fallopian tubes, they are two fallopian tubes. These are connected to the ovaries. Okay, so these fallopian tubes are almost 20 centimeter long and muscular tube-like structures. These are 20 centimeter long muscular tube-like structures. Tube-like structures. Okay, generally these are connected from ovary to the uterus. These are connected from ovaries to the uterus. Okay. Now, what is the function of this fallopian tube? The function of the fallopian tube is that it carries whatever the ovas are produced here. Okay. So, these ova are produced in the ovary, then this fallopian tube carries ova from the ovary and take it to the uterus. Fine. So, function, if we talk about the function, it carries means fallopian tube. Okay. So, this tube carries ova from ovaries to the uterus, as well as this is the site, means this fallopian tube is the site of fertilization of the egg. This fallopian tube is the site of fertilization of the egg. Okay, so this is the function of fallopian tube. Now we will talk about uterus. Next is uterus. Here we can see that uterus, complete this part is known as uterus. This is muscular in shape. Okay, after the fertilization, egg comes here in the uterus and get embedded here in the wall of uterus and get nutrients from this wall and grows here. And this is found here till the, it grows here till the birth of the child. Fine. So, let me tell you about the uterus. It is muscular structure. It is muscular structure after fertilization zygote means a developed embryo, means zygote. After fertilization, zygote comes in the uterus and get embedded in the wall of uterus and gets nourishment and get nutrients from the wall and grows here and grows here. Okay, so this is all about the uterus, that after fertilization of the egg, which becomes zygote, now it comes here in the uterus and get embedded here. We can see here it get embedded here in the wall of uterus, as well as it gets the nutrients from this wall of the uterus and grows here. Okay, next we will talk about vagina. Next is vagina. Next part of the female reproductive system is vagina. Here we can see this is a long tube, generally 5 to 7 centimeter long tube it is. It's muscular. Okay, and this is also known as the birth canal also, because it helps, it provides passes for the birth of the child. Okay, let me mention vagina. It is a muscular tube. It is a muscular tube about 5 to 7 centimeter long. Okay. Generally, during the copulation, it allows the male penis to insert, and generally it helps in the fertilization also. Okay, it is a muscular tube about 5 to 7 meter long. It is also known as birth canal, as it allows passage for the child or for the baby at the time of the birth of child or birth of the baby. Fine. So this is all about the female reproductive system. Let me once again explain you that generally female reproductive system has 4 main parts: ovary, fallopian tube, uterus and vagina. Okay, so ovary is the main, I must say this ovary is the primary sexual character, or this is the primary sexual organ, because it produces what? It produces female gametes. These are ova, as well as it secretes female sex hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. Fine. So when this ovary produces ova, then these ovas are carried by this fallopian tube to the uterus. Okay, and after the fertilization of egg, this egg comes here in the uterus and get embedded here in the wall of uterus and get nourishment from here and grows. Fine. And after the growth, when the baby is about to deliver, then this vagina helps it in the delivery. Fine. So this is all about the female reproductive system. So here we studied about female reproductive system. So as I told you here in the structure, that when this fertilization take place here in the fallopian tube, then only the fertilized egg comes here in the uterus. Same thing I told you in the duration the female reproductive system. Now what? When the fertilization takes place here in the fallopian tube, okay, that time this uterus prepare itself to carry that fertilized egg. Okay, so how it prepare itself? Then the walls here gets thickened. Okay, but if in the case fertilization does not take place here, okay, then what happens? The uterus has already prepared its walls for accepting it. Now as fertilization has not taken place here, that the time these linings break down and comes out through the vagina as blood and mucus. This is known as menstruation cycle. Okay. Next is menstruation cycle. Menstruation cycle. So first of all, what is menstruation? Menstruation means when the fertilization does not take place in the fallopian tube, that time the walls of the uterus, which were already thickened, okay, to receive the fertilized egg, but in the condition of unfertilized egg, means when the fertilization has not taken the place, that time these thickened wall breaks and comes out from vagina in the form of blood and mucus. This is known as menstruation. Okay. So what is menstruation? If fertilization does not take place in the fallopian tube, then the lining which were thick, okay, so lining of uterus breaks and comes out from vagina in the form of blood and mucus. Okay, this is known as menstruation. This is known as menstruation. Okay, so hope it is clear that at the time of fertilization, the uterus, the walls of uterus become thickens. Okay, means uterus prepare its walls to accept the fertilized egg. But if in the case fertilization does not take place in the fallopian tube, at that time these thick walls of the uterus, means the lining of the uterus which have already become thick, breaks and comes out from the vagina in the form of blood and mucus. This process is known as menstruation. Okay, now we are going to talk about menstruation cycle. This is menstruation cycle. Okay, as we know that each ovary produces one ova every month. Okay, but in the case if fertilization does not take place, that time lining of uterus breaks down and comes out from the vagina in the form of blood and mucus, and this is all about the menstruation cycle. So let me teach you how it happens from the first day when the ovary, means when the ovary releases ova and fertilization does not take place. At that time when the uterus lining breaks down and it comes out in the form of blood and mucus, that is the day 1 of menstruation cycle. Fine. So here from day 1 to day 5 blood continues flows from the vagina. Fine. After the 6th day, these walls of vagina again starts coming in the form of its original form, means they again start getting its original form. How? Because here the ovary produces female sex hormones, these are estrogen and progesterone. So here we can see that again uterus lining thickens again from the 6th day to 10th day. Fine. At the time blood stops blowing. Fine. Then after the 10th day, means from 11th to 18th day, ovulation occurs. Ovulation occurs means the formation of ova. Ovulation means the formation of ova. Ovulation means formation of ova. Means here from 6th day when the ovaries release sex female hormone that are estrogen and progesterone, and that hormones help the uterus lining to thicken again. Fine. Then after the 11th day, means from the 11th day itself, these ovaries start producing ova, means this process is known as ovulation. Fine. Then this period is known as what? This period goes on continuous till the 18th day, means from the 11th day to the 18th day ovulation, means the formation of ova takes place. After the 18th day, again from the 19th day to the 28th day, uterus lining continues to thicken. Again it's continues to thicken because it is waiting. If the fertilization will take place in the fallopian tube, then this uterus is preparing its walls to accept that fertilized egg for the nourishment. So this complete cycle is known as menstruation cycle. This is the reason that we say that each ovary produces one ova during the in the 28 days and in the alternate position. Like once if the left ovary is producing egg or ova on 1st of October, so definitely after the completion of this menstruation cycle, after 28 days, the another, means the right side ovary will produce the second ova, means each ovary produces one ova in 1 month in the period of 28 days. Okay, and this complete cycle is known as menstruation cycle. So here in this lecture, I taught you about the female reproductive system and menstruation cycle. Okay, now we will talk about the fertilization of egg and what are the changes after the fertilization. Fine. So here in this lecture, as I told you about the female reproductive system, and I told you if the fertilization does not take place, then how the menstruation cycle occurs in the female. Okay, so let me tell you one more thing, that menstruation cycle is the beginning, means beginning of the puberty. Okay, and this is known as menarche, as well as when this menstruation cycle stop at the age of 50 in the females. Okay, generally in the Indian females, it stops during the age of 45 to 50. So once this menarche stops, means this menstruation cycle stops, that phase is known as menopause. Okay, so this is the difference between menarche and menopause. So here in this lecture, I told you about the female reproductive system and the menstruation cycle. Hope everything is clear to you. Thank you.